we're going through the ACC and we're going through the Big 12, and we're going to determine right now who's even making the tier maker here. So we've got 16 Big 12 schools and 18 ACC schools. And so together there's 34. We got to whittle this list down to 24 for the tier maker. So we're striking out 10 schools right now that have no shot at getting into the best of the rest trifurcation conference. This is the best of the rest, likely funded by a private capital source. Mode, we're going to have a discussion about this, but are teams going to be going to the Power 2? Or are we just going to be estimating they're going to this best of the rest? We're still going to hash that out, but we need to see the players and who we're talking about. And this is how we're starting. Number one in the ACC, Boston College. Becky, is Boston College making the tier maker to determine the best of the rest conference?
So I guess the question is, are markets going to play a big role here? Sure. Because they have the Boston market, essentially, which now I suddenly want chicken. If market plays a role, they have a shot, but it is Boston College. The only views they get are when they just create these random upsets, which for whatever reason tends to be Florida State. Yep. I'm going to say no.
All right, Moan? No. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a strikeout on Boston College.
Boston College is out of the tier maker. They're out of the best of the rest. They have been eliminated via the strikeout. That is the first victim of the strikeout game. I'm sorry, Eagles, but you're gone. No market, like the market's there. No brand, TV ratings limited. Really no upside there. Out. Cal Berkeley. Moan. Cal Berkeley, are they going to make the best of the rest tier maker tonight?
I'm going to leave them on there, and I will explain why. I think there's a lot of the mountain teams, the further west teams in the Big 12 that have to be considered. I think they'll need travel partners. I want to leave Cal on.
Got it. Becky?
I am with Moen. I'm leaving Cal on. I think those Western partners, having a Western division that gets you California, which is great, because the other California school on here does not get you into the state of California, truly, because they're a private school. So.
Yeah, I'm with you too. Cal Berkeley stays on. They're going to be on the tier maker. We're moving to Clemson. The Clemson Tigers, I think that's a slam dunk, guy. Yeah, if they're there, right? If they're not in the Power 2, they're going to be in the best of the rest scenario, 100%. Is there any disagreement with that?
Listen, I don't think Clemson should be included. I think it's so obviously a Power 2 school. I want to have the most realistic options possible. And let's face it, Clemson's going to the Power 2, whether it's the Big Ten, the SEC. Clemson is going to find a home.
Yeah, probably so, Moan. Okay, Becky, what do you think? Is Clemson staying on the list? Are they being struck out because they have other options, a Power 2 option?
If we're playing the scenario where the Power 2 is not expanding. If the Power 2 doesn't expand, then if they do, then no, they're not there.
Okay, I'm playing it as if the Power 2 is expanded. Okay, that is the reason that these schools are leaving the ACC.
Yeah, then I would say they're a no, since they're going to have an option. They'll have options.
In a scenario, yes, I'm with you too. In a scenario where the P2 has expanded, Clemson's in that, so therefore they're struck out. But for exact opposite reason to Boston College, they got into the Power.
They're too good.
Yep, they're too good. So they're out of the conversation for tier maker, though. Duke. Becky.
I'm going to say yes, because they don't just bring football, they bring great basketball, and that does play a small role in things, whether or not we want it to be reality, because football's the driver. But their basketball program gives them the edge over a number of the other schools.
Yeah.
And they're rich, so they'll buy their way.
Location, basketball, Duke stays.
Yep, Duke stays 100%. They're in the tier maker. Florida State, Moan.
Out. They're in the Power 2.
Becky?
Yeah, the Power 2 is expanding, and they're out.
Florida State, they're probably in the Power 2. They're probably in the Big Ten. It's hard to see them struck out because they would be pretty core to making an idea like this, like a trifurcation, work, in my point of view. You need a brand like a Florida State. We'll talk about Miami in a second, but you need a big brand to really lift this best of the rest idea. If Florida State struck out, that's a big blow for trifurcation, but still. All right, we'll go with it. Florida State gets in the Big Ten of the SEC. They're out. Georgia Tech.
In Atlanta market. Football's improving.
Yeah. With no Clemson available, they're in because they bring that Atlanta market.
Yep. Georgia Tech is in. Louisville.
In.
Miami.
I'm going to put Miami in here. I don't necessarily, that doesn't mean I don't think Miami's going to make the Power 2, but I think they've got the most arguments against them in the Power 2 at the moment. So I would say let's leave Miami on there.
Becky?
I'm the opposite. I'm saying out because they would be in the Power 2. I think they would absolutely fit in with the Big Ten on a number of levels, maybe even the SEC on a number of levels. I mean, think about the SEC. They'd have Northern Florida and Southern Florida pretty much wrapped up with the Gators and Hurricanes. I just think if they're expanding, then they're taking Miami, so they're out.
I think Miami's in. There's a shot that it could happen. So we will go two out of three and keep Miami in the tier maker for this case. North Carolina.
Out.
Okay. North Carolina has been eliminated from the tier maker because they have an entryway into the SEC of the Big Ten Conference. That is the only reason that they will not be in the tier maker. Moving on to NC State in the strikeout game. Becky?
They're in.
Yeah.
Again, they help bring the market. North Carolina's not a tiny state, and they're a public school. Right?
Moan?
Yeah, I've got the Wolfpack in.
Wolfpack by far getting in. Hey, give us that Wolfpack call.
Sure. Let me do some super chats first, and then I'll do that for you.
All right. Sure.
Mark Bowman, Iowa Hawkeye. Will there be any room for Washington State and Oregon State in the best of the rest? Right now, we've just got the Big 12 and the ACC. Correct you?
That's right. That's correct. Just the Big 12 and the ACC.
Just the Big 12 and ACC for this exercise. So we're gonna do it that way. But thank you for the super chat, Mark. I will give you a little bit of that Herky fight song for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And then we've got one from FF18 Buffs, our good friend Fergie. Did the Big 12 season preview with Nate earlier this week. Hey guys, this exercise should be done with the idea that the other two conferences do not expand. This is making a new valuable CFB property. Maybe we do that in a standalone video, Fergie, but I think I want the most realistic option possible. I think if Florida State, Miami, with the revenue share that they're currently getting in the ACC, if the Power 2 do not expand, I don't see those schools leaving for trifurcation. Yeah.
I mean, we have to play it like it's realistic. I think the most realistic thing is the other conferences expand and they decide, the rest say, hey, what if we just get the best schools together and get the most money we can? Because it's probably what's going to happen. So
absolutely. Thank you for that. Realistic. Thank you for that, Fergie. Here's a little Colorado fight song. And here's a little bit of that North Carolina State how.
Woo! I freaking love that, Moan. I love that. And North Carolina State is in, baby. Now we're moving on to the Fighting Irish, the Fighting Mickeys, the rebrand Mickeys. What do you guys think? Is Notre Dame, would they even consider being in something like the best of the rest trifurcation?
They're out. They don't have, after the news, they don't have any reason to stay in a conference. They just stay independent. They have no reason to join a conference ever. They have a path.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I agree. The only way I think that Notre Dame exists is if Notre Dame is able to negotiate a similar deal that they have with the ACC now.
Yeah.
With this new conference where they play 5 conference games and get to remain independent and keep all their money.
Yeah, I don't think that Notre Dame ends up in this type of scenario. I think Big Ten, they will end up at that point inside the Big Ten Conference. Moving on to Pitt Panthers, Becky.
In. Surprisingly, I'm saying they're in. And I know they don't have great fans or whatever, but Pennsylvania is a hotbed of recruiting. Pittsburgh's a good-sized city. They're going to bring viewers. They get eyeballs, even though they don't fill their stadium. but I think they would be in, just on those reasons.
Moan?
Yeah, I got the Panthers in.
Okay. I've got them in too, for the same reasons Becky's outlined right there. Pitt's in to the tier maker. Moving on to Southern Methodist, SMU. What do you guys think? Moan, let's start with you this time with SMU.
Out. Because I think you've got TCU in the Big 12. You don't need to duplicate your market. One of those
Big
schools,
12, right?
yeah, one of those schools has to be left out. And to me, that school's going to be SMU.
I've got them out. I think they've officially become an up and coming team, but they bought their way into the ACC by taking no money. It's the only reason why they're in the ACC. If they continue on a forward trend, maybe, but yeah, they would have to come along for free. Otherwise, no. It, like Moen said, it duplicates the market. Plus, there's multiple other Texas teams to get you into Texas.
Totally agree. TCU is the choice over SMU. We'll talk about that on the Big 12 side of things soon here. And you nailed it, Becky. There's going to be other Texas-based options. SMU just doesn't have a big enough brand. They don't drive ratings enough to get in, to be worth it, to get into a conference like this, even if they wanted to pay themselves. And I just don't see it happening. SMU is out. Moving on to the Stanford Cardinal.
I got them out.
What?
They're too elitist. They're too snobbish. I don't see Stanford wanting to play in this conference. I'd see Stanford going completely independent like Notre Dame at that point.
I have them in, but they probably have options. So for that, I'm going to say out, because I think they actually have options, which hurts. They have options.
I've got them in, guys. And I get it. The Big Ten's still an option. But really, are you going to consider independence over this best of the rest? This is a better scenario than the ACC, guys.
You know them. They're not that snobbish. They're not. They wouldn't. The schools that are in this right now, if we just kept them, Duke, Georgia Tech, Pitt.
Okay. I will relent. I'll relent on this one. You're right. If you keep Cal, Duke, Georgia Tech, ultimately
they're in.
Stanford would do this.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Plus, if we get to the other four that used to be in a conference with them.
Right. But Stanford is. Again, the minute they agree to join the Big Ten Academic Alliance, they would have a spot in the Big Ten.
Yeah, that's why I said they have options. So for me, they're just out. But you guys can split that.
Well, let's keep Stanford in right now. Good discussion on Stanford. But I think that since Cal's in, Stanford can play in this realm and everything. It's going to be a cultural fit in a lot of ways for Stanford that they consider.
Plus, if Notre Dame has a scheduling agreement with whatever this is, Stanford's in.
All right, moving on to Syracuse. Simone, what do you think about Syracuse?
Syracuse is in. Again, basketball program brings you some of the New York City market. Football on the upswing with Fran Brown. I'm keeping Syracuse.
I'm keeping Syracuse. Same thing. They give you a little bit of the New York market. They give you the Western New York market. Upstate, all of that. Yeah, they're perfect.
Syracuse is in. Well said. All right, Becky, let's go to Virginia, UVA. Are they in, out?
I think they're out because they have actual options.
Moan?
I am going to, for the same reason I wanted to leave Miami in, I'm going to leave Virginia in. I could see scenarios where Virginia gets left behind because of the Virginia Tech situation.
Really? This is a tough one. I do think Virginia ends up in the SEC as we had made the tier maker weeks ago. But it's not like a slam dunk because of its limited brand. There's things that it brings to the table. I'm kind of compelled just to leave them in, just for the sake of it. Let's just leave them in. It's not strong enough. So let's move on to Virginia Tech. Becky, are they in or out?
They're in. That's a great football team. I will say this out loud, and people. I lived in Virginia. Virginia Tech's the bigger football brand in Virginia. I swear to God. I swear to God. I don't know why people don't recognize that.
Virginia Tech's in for me. Bigger football brand. I got Virginia Tech in.
They're definitely in. They're way, way in. This is the kind of school that really want a best of the rest, is the type of NC State, Virginia Tech type brand. So they might be a ringleader of this type of setup. Virginia Tech so in. So I'm with you guys, 100%. They're in. Now we're moving on to Wake Forest. Becky, what do you think about Wake Forest? Are they in or out?
They're out.
Tier maker.
they're out. Like, no offense to Wake Forest, 35,000 seat stadium. Nobody really watches you. The basketball program hasn't been great since Tim Duncan was there or Chris Paul. Like, God, I mean, that's a long time. They don't really bring a lot, unfortunately. Small private school, teeny tiny private school in terms of others. So they're out.
Moan. Yep.
Yeah, Wake's out. That's automatic.
Yeah, Wake's out. Wake's out.
Now,
All right. How do we feel about
watch them win a bunch of games this year, by the way.
They might. They'll need to win games for a decade straight to be considered in any type of realignment situation. They just don't have the brand for it. But like, hey, look, this is what we built out. Okay, so we've eliminated Boston College, Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, Notre Dame, SMU, and Wake. We feeling pretty good about that? Does this look like the formation of something that could happen right here from the ACC side?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like this. I think this is the best.
I wouldn't want to take this conference on in mathematics ever.
Duke, Cal, and Stanford, UVA, Georgia Tech, and seriously, No. All right, we're going to move on to the Big 12 strikeout game, okay? So this is part of the tier maker. We've gone through the ACC. We've selected the teams that we want to do more ratings on down the line in this live show. We're all doing this as a live show. It's going to be an epic, long live show, getting to the best of the rest conference that we're going to form, the realistic options. We're going to the Big 12, and we're starting with Arizona, the Wildcats. Moan, is Arizona in?
Yes. Arizona's basketball program, I think that's enough to keep the Wildcats in.
Becky?
Yeah, same reasons as too. Their basketball program elevates them.
I 100% agree with you guys. Arizona's in the best of the rest. Now we're moving on to Arizona State Sun Devils.
Sun Devils I'm putting in just because we got Arizona in. I think they're intertwined, and I think you need some. Again, I like the idea that you're going to get some of these mountain schools that would allow you to connect up with like a Cal and a Stanford. And
hey, you. Yeah, you. Subscribe now so you don't flunk your next in-depth stats analysis and realignment course.
I have Arizona in, but mostly because they own the state of Arizona when it comes to football. I mean, they give you the Phoenix market, literally. That's their market. They're only, Tucson's an hour and a half south or something like that, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've been down there. No, Arizona State owns the state of Arizona when it comes to football. Basketball's the flip. So
they're in. Yeah, they're in. Phoenix, Tempe, growing football brand, huge enrollment. There's a lot of things to like about Arizona State. They're definitely in this type of scenario, in my view. Moving on to a very interesting Big 12 candidate here, a private school and Baylor. Is Baylor in the best of the rest scenario?
No, I got Baylor out. Again, how many schools are we going to keep in Texas? How many schools do you need in Texas? And for that reason, I think Baylor, Houston brings you basketball, Texas Tech, obviously, spending out the ass on football. TCU, I think 3 teams in Texas is more than enough, and that's why I'm striking Baylor out.
Wow.
I have Baylor out for the same reasons. I think we have better brands in Texas left.
Holy cow. Yes, I am with you guys on striking Baylor out, but this is probably the strongest candidate that we've struck out so far.
I want to say this out loud. Baylor was a dumpster fire for 17 years in the Big 12, something like that. So their brand is super new. Like, they are basically Oregon on a younger scale.
Right. So Baylor is out. There's other Texas options that we're going to be looking towards and that we've already considered here. Now for the Brigham Young University Cougars. Are they in or are they out? Becky?
I have them out. I know they get a lot of eyeballs, and people are going to kill me when I say this, but this is like a combination of the 2 conferences. And that list on the other side is, for a number of reasons, would probably vote no. Like, no offense to BYU fans. It's not an anti-Mormon thing. There's a lot of other things about the school that, like, they would probably say no about. A lot.
I've got BYU in. It's too big a brand. Yeah, it's too big a brand to leave out. I think BYU has to stay.
Moan, do you think that BYU could coexist with Cal, Stanford, Duke, Virginia?
I think if it comes down to who makes the most money, I think having BYU in this conference makes you money. And I think that's what this conference is about. The best product that makes the most money possible for each institution. I think you've got to keep BYU in there as a contender.
I like the logic there. And like I hear what Becky's saying too. There's some snags and everything, but BYU does bring a really good fan base, brand, good football. So for the reasons that Moan is saying, I think that they sneak into the tier maker in this analysis here. So BYU remains in the tier maker and they move on at least. So not struck out quite yet. And then we'll move on here to Cincinnati. What do you think about Cincinnati, Moan?
Sorry, Cincinnati, you're out.
Yeah.
It's
Becky?
too small a brand.
Look, Taylor Swift could show up at every game for the next 10 years. You're out, Cincinnati. Sorry, not sorry.
They're out. Yeah, Cincinnati, they're out. Yeah, I mean, like it's kind of like the Wake Forest type of conversation.
They're up and coming. Like I think another couple of years after that, playoff appearance, had they just stayed and had Luke Fickell and them stayed and built it back, and like they'd probably be there. But yeah, I am out.
Yeah.
I feel bad about the last two picks.
You know what? Like, hey, this is like what's going to happen, guys. If it comes down to it, and there's going to be a best of the rest formed, good schools are going to get left out. And there's going to be different reasons for it. It's going to be market-driven, cultural-driven, ratings-driven. There's a lot of factors here. But we're putting ourselves like in the boardroom and making the call here for this new conference. This is just an exercise that we're going through. Probably the first of its kind that's ever been done. It's really interesting to do it, too. But like you've got to be honest with yourself and say, if you're making a 16 to maybe tops 20 team conference, Cincinnati's just not going to be a part of that. I think you've got to be honest about that. They just don't bring enough value to lift. And like that brings us now with that thought in mind to the Colorado Buffaloes. Moan, what do you think about Colorado?
Colorado's in. Huge ratings with Coach Prime. Besides that, if you're doing a nationwide conference to compete against the Big Ten, you're going to have these mountain schools, these West Coast schools. I've got the Colorado Buffaloes in.
I'm going to lean in. I think the Prime effect is a big deal right now. But they've been a power program pretty much since the beginning, and they do give you the Denver market. Again, Colorado's decent recruiting. I mean, I have no problem saying they're in, but like they don't have options unless Prime stays there and they continue this ratings. I was begrudgingly saying yes because I think they'll have an option if Prime's still there in like 6 years.
Colorado's in. Prime or no Prime, the market's good enough. The brand is increasing. The investments at Colorado, they're in my view. So I'm with you guys. We're moving on to a very interesting one. And Mo, and I believe you mentioned them beforehand with speaking on Texas, like Houston.
I am going to leave them in the tier maker. I'm not saying they're going to make it into the final conference. But Houston market, they do have a history with basketball. If you really want to put your stamp on basketball, and look, we've got some great basketball brands in here, I think you leave Houston in for the tier maker, but I cannot guarantee that, but yeah, Houston market, huge market, basketball, football, we'll see. They're trying to get it back on track, but, the last time I remember Houston football doing anything, Tom Herman was the head coach.
Becky, what do you think about Houston?
I don't know if Houston's basketball program is good enough to overcome it, but like going for this exercise, I'm going to leave them in begrudgingly.
Houston makes it.
Barely.
I'm with you guys. I mean, barely. They make it through basketball market-driven play. I mean, Becky, remember the old Pac-12 was so interested in adding Houston for a reason.
Yeah.
They brought value in basketball and that market and recruiting. So Houston's in, to the tier maker at least.
I mean, again, like if they can get their football program turned around, they have a great trajectory. That's the problem. The football program has to flip. And Kelvin Sampson needs to keep the basketball team from getting sanctions because every stop he's had is ended in sanctions. So.
Yeah. Becky, moving on to Iowa State.
I have them in again. Good Midwest. It's like a good halfway point, and you're in a Big Ten state. Kind of want to poke that a bit. And they get great eyeballs. I mean, they're good eyeballs.
Moan.
Oh boy.
I
leave
him a minute.
You know what? I can't even leave them in for the tier maker. I love Iowa State. I love what Matt Campbell's done there, but we've got to make some tough choices here, and I just don't think Iowa State has enough draw to bring enough value to a best of the rest conference. So I say out.
I am with you on Iowa State being out for exactly the reason that you mentioned. They don't really bring the market. The brand is good, not great. It just doesn't add enough upside. Houston, you bring in the Houston market, recruiting the basketball. Iowa State just doesn't have enough juice. Don't think they'd be realistically considered. They're out. They're out, Moan. That's a tough one.
It is.
That is.
It's a tough one.
So we are actually whittling this list down pretty good. And we've already eliminated roughly about 10 schools in the tier maker, and we have 8 left. We'll see out of the remaining 8 which ones make it through. Moan, KU.
KU slam dunk. They're in.
Yeah, KU's.
KU's in. All right, moving on to K-State. Becky?
Gonna hate me. I'm taking them out. If we don't need 2 teams in Kansas for this. No offense, Kansas State fans. You're pretty much good across the board in every single sport that you play. But Kansas they're now investing in their football program. They have a better basketball program. I have no need for 2 teams. Plus, Kansas technically gives me Kansas City market as well. And I think there's a lot of arguments about that. I've seen Jayhawk and Missouri fans argue who owns that market. Kansas State doesn't give me a market. It's a duplication. If Iowa State doesn't give you the brand, then I have to use the same argument for Kansas State. I don't need 2 teams in the state of Kansas.
Before Moan jumps in, I've got K-State as in the best of the rest because of football history and brand. K-State gets really good TV ratings, have been historically over the last 25 years, 30 years, extremely good at football. I think they add juice on the football side, which is really going to fuel a lot of the best of the rest. That's going to be backed by private equity, private capital. So I think that they're good enough brand to make the tier maker, at least in my view. But Moan, it's going to fall on you. Is K-State remaining in the tier maker or not?
Sorry, K-State fans, but they're out. You don't need 2 Kansas schools.
Kansas schools.
And Kansas has blue blood basketball. They just got the new stadium. They're finishing it up. They just got a $300 million gift from David Booth. Kansas State's out.
And no offense, you, but Kansas State's history in football was trash until Snyder showed up there. All their winning seasons are in the last 30 years.
Yeah, but that's 30 years, Becky. It's 30 years, right?
In 30 years,
it's not like 3 years.
I'm like, at least, no, I can't. It's not even a great history.
That one is difficult for Wild Ute, but you two made the call. K-State does not make it to the best of the rest tier maker. Oklahoma State, are they making it?
I would leave them in the tier maker. They do have a good brand. They get good viewership. So I would leave them in the tier maker. I don't know that they make the final cut, but I would leave them in the tier maker.
I'll leave them in the tier maker. And Midwest gets, they bring somewhat of a Oklahoma, Dallas kind of market. It's a little overlap, but they get eyeballs, man. People watch them.
Yeah. You guys, they're going to the tier maker, but they're going to get in. They're going to get into the best of the rest, in my view. That's a little foreshadowing there, but there's no way you leave Oklahoma State out. They have the best historical TV ratings out of everybody in the Big 12. Everybody. Really are one of the biggest brands in the Big 12 conference. I think they're a no-brainer to get in.
No, that's why I said that. I'm right there with you. I'm like, I don't see why they wouldn't be in. They just, for whatever reason, they're the second best team in Oklahoma, but they get all the eyeballs.
Yeah, we've got a huge fan base. And so Oklahoma State moves it. TCU.
TCU is in. Dallas-Fort Worth, Marketplace. TCU, I think, has been, of all the schools that got called up to the A4, I think TCU has been the most consistent in terms of football. They've made it to a national championship game. Yeah, I've got TCU in.
I mean, did they make it to a national title game?
They did. They didn't play very well in it, but they made it.
I know. I'm just asking if they even showed up. No. I mean, I say this. My team got their ass kicked the next year. No. TCU's in. Same reasons.
TCU's in. Yeah, like we had eliminated SMU. TCU's the school we're choosing from Dallas. They've got good football, big market. Heck yeah. Texas Tech.
And
yeah, it's in the money that they're putting into football. It has to be in. I think they're outspending LSU this year, guys. LSU, like Brian Kelly said, they're spending $18 million, and the reports are Texas Tech's at 28. Yeah, and the thing you got to keep in mind is this new third conference would probably be around the 2030 range when it would form. Have to imagine if you're pumping that kind of money into a football program for 4 or 5 years, it's gonna pay off.
Yeah,
so
has to.
I've got Texas Tech in.
Yeah,
they're 100% in. Fan base, money, football, growth, in. UCF, Moan.
Listen, I'll leave them in the tier maker, but if Miami's making it in, I'm taking UCF out. You don't need 2 schools in Florida, especially when one of them's UCF. And they just hired Scott Frost, who takes no responsibility for his football programs. But, yeah, I'll leave him in for the tier maker. But, listen, if Miami's available, I don't think you need 2 schools in Florida.
I'm leaving them out for that reason. Say no. Miami.
I'm with Becky. They're out. Moan, they're out.
Okay.
Like, they just don't bring the ratings. Like they've got a passionate fan base, but not a big fan base, small stadium. I just don't see them bringing the value for a best of the rest. I can't move them along anymore. So UCF's out. So what about the Utes? They in out.
I'll put them in.
I'll put them on the tier list. I think, again, it's a duplication of Salt Lake City market. One of those two can't say. So I'll decide between the two here. I wanted to leave BYU off because I thought public school would be the better get in the state of Utah, but I mean, I gotta leave them in. But I don't know.
They're in
the list. So.
Yeah, the Utes are going to make the list. They're in too. West Virginia.
I've got the Mountaineers in. Strong brand, passionate fan base. Morgantown, I know it's not a very sexy city. I've been there several times, but they do love their Mountaineers. They're always out there in the stadium, win or lose. I'm keeping West Virginia in. If we're keeping Pitt in, I'm keeping West Virginia in.
If we're keeping Pitt in, we got to keep West Virginia in. I think they overlap, but yeah, like Moen said, that's a strong brand. Like people watch them. They have decent basketball most years. They're pretty good across the board in whatever you do. So.
West Virginia's in. Brand, fan base, passion, 100%. That's what you want in this type of best of the rest conference. So there we have it. We've eliminated Baylor, Cincinnati, Iowa State, Kansas State, UCF from the Big 12, and we've eliminated Boston College, Clemson for a different reason. We believe they will enter into the Power 2, probably the SEC with the Big 10, more likely the SEC. And Florida State for the same reason, UNC for the same reason, Notre Dame for the same reason, and we've straight just eliminated SMU and Wake Forest